Every waking hour, you feel the pressure to be productive. That's the bit that can really drain you. That feeling that just because you're awake, you should be working on the business. You should be hustling, you should be networking or connecting or selling or pitching or editing or posting or making it happen. You cannot not be productive. Working for yourself is a marathon, but there is no finish line. You wake up and the marathon is still running. You are still running. You do not stop. I want to talk about self-worth as a self-employed freelancer, to look at the value of failing and how utterly unavoidable that is, to consider what makes a good client versus a bad client, plus the things that help you to avoid burnout as you pour your heart and soul into your career. I am not talking about cameras today, but I am talking about what it means to build a sustainable career in photography and surviving life without an employer to provide for all the essentials. So the short version is you need good clients. You don't want bad clients. You do not want clients who do not value your work. You do not want clients who haggle over the price, because those clients are never going to be happy with your work anyway, because they are the ones who do not value what you do. You want good clients who see value in your skill and experience and are willing to pay fairly for what you can offer. You want clients who look for ways to show you that they value you as a human being, not just as a resource that they can punch in or out. So the perfect business is built around quality, not price. You want your business to trade on quality. You want people to recognize the quality of your work so you can be paid properly for that. And that is not about getting rich. That is about having a sustainable income. You might be charging thousands of dollars a day for a particular task, but it took 10 years of work and experience and mistakes and investing in yourself to be that productive, to get $1,000 worth of work done in a day. The client isn't just getting a few hours of your time, they're getting a decade of your experience. Thing is, nobody else is going to care if you are charging a sustainable rate for your work. You are the only one who can set the price and set the limits for what work is good for your soul. You are the only one who can sack a client who messes you about and drags down your entire business. And yes, one bad client can literally destroy your business. One bad client can suck the life out of your soul and make it hard to deliver to the rest of your clients. Get rid of the bad clients quickly. Sustainability has to be seen in the long term. It's not about what you're earning today. It is very much about where you will be in 10 years' time. If you take this path, will you have paid off your home? Will you be able to afford to have a holiday? Will you have time to step away and raise a family? And if the answer to most of those questions is no, then you've got to ask yourself, is this a sustainable path for you? Working for yourself is a marathon, not a sprint. Every waking hour, you feel the pressure to be productive. That's the bit that can really drain you. That feeling that just because you're awake, you should be working on the business. You should be hustling, you should be networking or connecting or selling or pitching or editing or posting or making shit happen. You cannot not be productive. Working for yourself is a marathon, but there is no finish line. You wake up and the marathon is still running. You are still running. you do not stop. Time off is like some special treat, some rare little gift that you allow yourself after working a 60-hour week. Yet normal people, it turns out, get heaps of time off from work. They go home, they spend time with their family. It is considered normal to be at home with your family, and maybe even to achieve absolutely zero during the weekend. In France, they decided 2 days a week from work was not enough. They have a 3-day weekend now. Freelancers don't live in the same world as France. Trying to work out whether a path is sustainable is even more complex than simply trying to work out, can I make a living doing this gig? And in photography, it usually is a gig. You're usually on your own. You are contracted in when it's needed, and companies do that because they don't want to pay the overheads to have you as staff. So that's your problem now. The overhead is your problem. The gear is your problem. The health insurance, the holiday pay, retirement fund, these are your problems, and they have to be seen as part of how can you sustainably make this a career. And that's not to say I don't do a bunch of things that are not really financially sensible. I do a lot of projects every year for either no money or next to no money. It's because I believe in the project, or because it's a really fun project and I enjoy it, or it's a worthwhile charity. But I can only do that because I have good clients who pay the bills on the other days. And when you have good clients, you have the flexibility to take on other work that is not financially motivated. Work that might be good for you and good for your soul and good for your creativity and just something that you enjoy. And that's the point about being freelance. You did it because you wanted to enjoy your life, not because it was easy, not because you would get rich, but because you wanted a sustainable lifestyle, because you didn't want to go into the office every day. You didn't want to start your day at 8 o'clock in the morning and stay till 6 o'clock at night. So you chose this, and somehow you have to make it a sustainable path. There is another way to think about sustainability of a career. Think of this as how often can you fail and still keep moving forward. Failure is a weird thing. You need it so badly to achieve your best. You need to fail to learn. You need to fail to recorrect your course. You need a chance to make mistakes and a chance to recover from those mistakes. The more capacity to recover you have, the more capacity you have to build a better career. Nobody gets it right the first time. Success is not the result of avoiding failure, but moving through it. I don't think many people truly appreciate just how often you end up failing when you run a business for yourself. I'm talking about any business here, really. And for that matter, at any scale. Big companies make freaking huge mistakes. I have seen financial institutions waste $20 million on a project that gets axed 3 years later into a 4-year rollout. We don't hear about these failures because the company's still making profit. It's just that they're making less profit than they thought they would. But these failures happen every single day, and only the scale varies. Freelancers make mistakes too. We forget to file paperwork with the tax office. We waste money on Instagram ads that no one is ever going to see. We work for days quoting a job that's already been locked in with another contractor. We try something new and discover the hard way why nobody else does it that way. We buy camera gear we don't need. Lots and lots of camera gear we really don't need. And sometimes we choose a path for our career that hits a dead end, and we need to turn around and start again and find a different path. Having a sustainable career in photography is actually about having a series of careers, because from year to year, the job can change, the mix can change, the client mix can change, the area of focus can change. It's not really one big career, but a bunch of smaller ones. Some of those changes, they work out fine, and some of them, they do not.
Keep on keeping on, keep on keeping on, leap on leaping on. Leap on, leaping on, oh, keep on keeping on, keep on keeping on, leap on, leaping on, leap on, leaping on, keep on keeping on, keep on keeping on.
There's one common ingredient I find to stories of success in photography. Not universal, but this is very, very common. And that's simply people who start a little later in life. I started my photography career properly at the age of 30. Not because I was a genius at running a business, but because I had exhausted 2 other careers. I had tried other things and realised they weren't for me. When I finally came back to photography, I had a little life experience behind me, and that makes such a difference, understanding just how the world works. I had a better idea of the challenge ahead for me and a better idea of how to value my work. I say this often, but a career in photography is a business challenge, not an artistic one. Taking photographs is simply not very hard. Running a business is. The more experience you have behind you before taking a career step in photography, the better. That might be experience in your own work life, or it could be experience from a mentor. It's okay to learn from other people's mistakes too. Starting out is the hardest part. When you have no experience, no runs on the boards, you have the least capital, the least skill, and the least experience. You have to find a way to pay the bills while you figure out a path forward. And I do worry about the impact of AI generated images on the next generation of young photographers and their careers, because those boring jobs that barely pay the bills, the ones that get you through that startup time, they're going to get swallowed up by AI. We're about to lose an entire stepping stone for careers. And in the process, we might lose some really talented artists too. What many folks don't realise is how many talented artists rely on commercial work to sustain their careers. Guys like Murray Fredericks, who spent years on his Salt Lake projects in between more profitable agency work. It's much easier to build yourself a sustainable career in photography when you've already got a decade of experience behind you. So I'm worried about how AI is going to impact a generation of creative people for whom photography, maybe, would just be an amusement and not a serious vocation. When we give up a job, when we give up having an employer and start to work for yourself, we are now paying for a whole bunch of things that your employer used to pay for. We're paying for an office space, we're paying for hardware, we're paying for internet access, we're even paying for studio space. We are paying for our retirement fund. That's a really big one, and people don't factor that in so much. We think maybe I can make the same kind of income as I did when I had a job, except we're not always factoring in our retirement fund or our holidays or our health insurance or just some of the other on-costs that go with being employed. Things such as holiday pay or sick leave in Australia are really well covered. Freelancers don't get any of that. We don't get long service leave. We don't get termination payouts when we work for ourselves. We're not just trying to have an income to get by today, but we need to plan for those rainy days ahead too. And that's on top of the gear that we have to budget for. Camera gear, hard drives, computers and filters and lighting and bags, lots of camera bags. We're spending a lot of money on gear, and that's coming out of the potential for us to put money in the bank. There are loads of opportunities to make money as a photographer, but many of them are not actually sustainable. Many of them can become intensely boring and just grind you down. They can send you into a depression if you had to do it day after day after day. Just the editing of the photographs from a shoot alone can be a form of torture. It is not sustainable to spend 4 or 5 days a week editing photos. Your brain will turn to mush if you do that. If you are a creative person, you maybe have 2 hours of genuine creativity that you can do on any given day. And once you've spent those 2 hours, there's not much left. You now have to go do something that's less creative. You have to do some boring things like sort out your taxes or watch something on YouTube and learn about photography, because you've spent your creative energy for the day. That's one reason we don't quote for an all-day shoot. We'll maybe do 4 hours, or we'd actually rather just do 2 hours and do a really good 2 hours. And even then, we need preparation time leading up to that excellent 2 hours. We've got to set up things. We've got to plan for things. We've got to pack our bags. We've got to get into a creative mindset for styling. There's all sorts of things that happen before the actual shoot. But there's maybe 2 hours of really good creativity happening in the middle of all that effort. And there's a difference between sustainability as a business and sustainability as a freelancer. If you have staff, then you can exploit them to make money. That's what capitalism is all about. My wife and I, we don't want to get rich by making other people work shitty jobs. That's one of the reasons we just work for ourselves, and one reason we don't outsource our photo editing to strangers in other continents. We do the shitty jobs ourselves. Often, a business that looks sustainable from the outside is in fact exploiting other people's labour in order to make money. I honestly feel that so many people with good jobs have no idea to what extent their lifestyle is actually subsidised by people with bad jobs. I pay my accountant whatever he wants to charge to handle my taxes and keep the paperwork sorted, because my brain hates accounting and his does not. He loves that stuff and he does it well, and there are times when removing certain chores from your workload makes sense. But please pay a good rate for that effort, just as you expect to be paid well for your work. At the heart of the challenge when it comes to how much to charge for your work is that most of us never value ourselves enough anyway. Most of social media is filled with people who clearly overvalue themselves. That's how social media works. But in the real world, it's not usually like that. In the real world, often we are the only people who don't value ourselves enough, and we struggle to demand a decent return for our efforts. We struggle to charge a rate that is fair for ourselves. The struggle to find value and worth in ourselves is a universal problem. We all think that it's other people who are confident, but mostly we just have different ways of hiding our insecurity. Some people cope by working twice as hard than they need to. They over-deliver. Some people buy fancy cameras and gear to mask over their feelings. Some people cope by being incredibly awful team players and undermining everyone else around them in order to lift their own ego. Deep down, we are all struggling with confidence and self-worth, and earning a shit ton of money can make you feel better in one sense. Don't get me wrong, money is wonderful stuff, and I would rather have too much than too little, but money by itself is still not enough. The thing that makes a difference to me sticking it out in a long-term freelance career is whether or not I feel like my work is actually making a difference. I want to feel like a useful human being. I want to feel like I made the world a little bit better today. There are moments in my commercial work when I feel positively useful. That actually does happen. And certainly there are many moments in our workshops and tours when I feel like I've genuinely helped a bunch of people experience something absolutely unique and rare and valuable. Not just our photographers, but our guides as well. The opposite of exploiting a bunch of badly treated workers is to enjoy the company of some amazing individuals and know that you're making a positive impact on them and their lives and their families' lives. We care about the people we work with. We love making life a little bit better for our clients, our companions, and our colleagues. Those moments are critical to sustaining all the other bullshit that we endure behind the scenes. I want to wrap up this video with a few thoughts on burnout. I think this is a topic that deserves its own video perhaps, but I couldn't walk through my thoughts on a sustainable career without also including some reference to burnout as well. Because this is something that happens a lot, usually when we are giving our absolute best. Burnout doesn't happen when we're just pissing about having fun. Nobody gets burnout by being lazy. The more talented you are, the more likely you are to hit burnout at some stage. You put so much of yourself into the work, maybe too much. There isn't always enough left over for other things in your life that matter. There's an element of balance required between work and life, which just sounds utterly trite. Work-life balance. But there is truth in this, and you need balance within your work, not just at home. And as a freelancer, you have a degree of control towards achieving that. Not just by picking good clients, not just by bringing meaning into the work you do and acting with kindness to your clients, but through building diversity in your career. Don't do just one thing. Do as many things as you can. Diversity is a huge key to avoiding burnout and making your career last a lifetime. Don't just shoot weddings. Don't just shoot cars, or don't just shoot puppies. Start working on a creative project that has zero connection to your income. Make a book. Do some teaching. Donate to a charity. Start a YouTube channel. Volunteer at an art gallery. Spend some time with camera clubs. Maybe. Have as many different elements to your career as possible, plus anything tangential to your creative talent. Think of this like a big wheel and you want to keep it spinning. Not too fast and not too slow. At first, it takes a while to get the big wheel moving and it feels like a struggle. But each of those diverse creative outlets help to turn the wheel just a little bit. Some parts of your career will turn it with greater strength and others may only give it a little bit of a nudge. But it all adds up. And when one element drops away, all the remaining elements can keep that wheel turning. A good career may change its nature over time. The big wins that happen from one year to the next are going to vary. Photography itself is changing all the time with new technology and new opportunities, new horizons. I am not the same photographer today that I was 24 years ago. And if you keep going for 24 years, you will be a very different photographer than you are today as well. But with every year you keep the freelance dream alive, you get a little stronger, you get a little smarter, and your experience grows. Each year you become a better photographer. Each year you add a little more value and experience to every hour you spend on site shooting. And each year you find new ways to bring something special to your clients and ideally for them to value what you do. Thank you for staying through this video with me. If you'd like to share some of your thoughts about what makes a career sustainable and some of your experience, please leave a comment below and feel free to subscribe to my channel for other videos. Have a great day.